Hello, and today I'd like to talk about getting your TSM accounting data out of TSM so you can look at your sales data and get some really nice summaries that lets you know what's doing well in your auctions and what's not. So first off, how do you get this out of TSM? Well, if you go into the right hand tab here, accounting export, and now down here it's already got sales and purchases selected. These are the two that I'm mainly interested in. You can do income and all other things, but I'm just going to go for these for now. So you select your account, and then you select your realm, so Samadan and Shadow Song for me, and then you go export to CSV. CSV stands for comma separated value, which is a very basic format for a spreadsheet to come in, so it's kind of like a raw format that then can work for everything else. So there we go. So this is exported now, so you can click on that. It's on my desktop here, so I can minimize this down. So we've got the Shadow Song sales and the Shadow Song purchases. So let's look at the sales first. Now I'm using Libre Office, which is a free bit of software. I've chosen this one because not everyone has access to something like Excel, and I've also not chosen to use something like Google spreadsheets because for me I like to have an actual, for this kind of thing, I like to have an actual program on my computer. For me it's just kind of like it works out quite well. But the same kind of things happen from program to program. It's just maybe the buttons might be in slightly different ways, or there might be slightly different formatting options, but the principles are the same. You can see here it's already put in comma as the comma separated value here, which is what we want, default everything, and then you can see a preview of what it's going to look like, and you can see this makes sense, item string, item name. So I'm going to click on OK and bring that in. So it's automatically all sorted out for me. So you have your item string, item name, stack size, quantity, price, player name, the person you sold it to, and the player that actually sold the item, and what the source was in auction. And there's also this time format, which is just like a really long number. Now I found out through searching Reddit that time format, TSM uses something called Epoch time, which is kind of like a string of numbers that does both the time and the date. So it's not very easy for me to read this, so there's a way to convert that, and that's what we're going to do first, is we're going to add in an extra column just to the side of this. So we'll insert column left here, so we've got a spare column here. Now what we want to do is reference this column H and put in a formula that's going to convert that epoch time into something that's more readable by us. Right, so if I bring up one of my previous spreadsheets which has this time conversion in here, you can see I've already added the column in here, and this looks like it makes much more sense. You've got a time and a date format here, and you can see up here when I click on this, this tells me the string operation, a bit like TSM strings, but this is a spreadsheet operation that's basically going to take column H and 2, so that's that cell H2, this one here, H2 divided by 60, divide that by 60, divided by 24, add the date on from 1970 plus 1 plus 1. And that effectively gives me the conversion from this to that. So what we're going to do is let's just select this whole lot here. I'll put this in the description below. Now obviously there's different ways of doing this if you're going to be Greenwich Mean Time or other things like that, but because I'm really just interested in the daytime, it doesn't really matter if you're a few hours out, if you want to use this and you're in a different time zone. Or you could look at the specific date format for your time zone and then adjust that yourself. So the important thing here to remember is the H2. So we're going to copy that, and so in here we're going to put in equals H2, which is the same here, the column H, cell 2, so it's exactly the same as the previous spreadsheet, and then put everything in there. Click the tick to accept that, and then you can see there it's automatically just put it as just date format. You could change that if you go right click and format cells, so it's gone to date. You could change that to include date and time, so something like this, and then it will also include the time that something sold. So that's useful information if you want to see what time things sold. So you could use this to see what was a popular time during the day that things sold. But for me, I'm just going to use this as a date format operation. So what we need to do now is copy this one down into every single other one so it translates across. Now spreadsheets are usually pretty good at interpreting what you mean to do. So if I was to take this and see this little dot here, you can drag that down and it will repeat the same thing down the column, and it will take the thing from the left and adjust it accordingly. You can see like the time has changed all there, but that will take me quite a while to just drag this all the way down because we've got a huge long list here. So what I'm going to do instead, I'm going to undo that, Control Z, and then I'm going to copy this, so Control C, copy. Then I'm going to select this cell here and then I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom. Hold down shift, left click to select the whole load of cells down there, and control V, paste that effective operation in there, and you can see all the time has gone through here all the way up to the 8th of March here 2019. So my TSM data goes pretty much from the start of BFA way back here in 18th of the 7th 2018, just before BFA, and then it goes all the way down to the latest date. Obviously this is a lot of data to deal with, so we need to reduce this down in a way that's going to be more manageable. So let's say I was only interested in the month of February, which I've recently done. So I'm going to take everything from March and delete that out. So looking down here onto the date, you can see here we've got the 1st of March here. So everything from there, if I left click on the number down here, that will select the entire row. Then if I scroll down, take all the ones of March, so I hold shift down and left click this number so that all those rows are now selected. Then I can right click on any one of them and go delete rows, and that's got rid of all that data. So then we need to go back up here. Currently we're on 26th of February, so let's go all the way up to the beginning of February. So there's the end of January there, so that's the beginning of February, just the one below it. So we're going to select this one and then go all the way up to the top, hold shift down, select all of those, then right click, delete those rows. So now we've only got the data for February. So everything from the 1st to the 2nd, all the way through to the 26th. So that's a lot less data to deal with. So we're just going to do this in this 1 month chunk as it is. It's already ordered from earliest to latest, so we'll keep that. So now we have a readable time format, which is really good. That's step 1. Now the next thing to look at is the price. So at the moment the price is a large number because it's basically in the number of copper pieces. So what we ideally want to look at is the price in gold, and have a decimal place after that. I'm going to add another column to the left of this. I call this something like gold, and then we're going to reference the one to the right of us now. So if I type in equals and then type in now F2 is the cell to the right of me, and I'm going to divide that by 10,000, so 10, 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. So that takes the copper and converts it to a gold value with a decimal place. So you can see there, this 55,000 copper comes out at 5 gold, 55 silver, and 75 copper. Now we could take this a step further and just reduce down the decimal places. In Libre Office you can literally just format it as a number and it will automatically do 2 decimal places as a default, which is really handy. So again, we can copy this and then select the cell below, scroll down to the bottom, and then shift click onto the bottom, and then Control V, paste that in. And then we've got a gold value for all our auctions here. Now you can see here this is a gold amount, but it's not really the total because we've also got a stack size and quantity column here. So what we actually really need to know is a total amount of gold. So 2 of these items, 2 deep sea bags sold here. So we actually need to get a total gold value out of here. So we need another column, insert column left. I'm going to call this total. So now with this, what we need to do is take the quantity and times it by the number of gold. So we put in the equals again, and then we can look to the cell to the left, which is D2. So equals D2 times, and then we're going to look to the cell to the right, which is F2. So type in F2, then press enter. And then that obviously is the same as this. Now again, the number format's changed here to include the whole decimal places. So we're going to change ours here, format as a number, and then we're going to copy this and apply the same thing down the whole column. Hold down shift, there. You can right click paste if you want to, and that will pop them all in, and then we can format those. They're already formatted as numbers. It's copied the formatting from the cell at the top. Now when you look at these, you can see, okay, well this one has now done the right number because 759 times 2 has given me 1,518. So now we have a total price for each item. So we've got the item names down here. Now there's a few things we need to strip out of here. As you can see, there's a few unknown items here which have been sold to a merchant just for small amounts, and then there's a few merchant sales in here that have been identified. Usually for me, I tend to ignore all the merchant sales because that's all the junk items that I've probably sold, and they usually don't add up to a great deal. So for me, I strip them out and don't include them in my analysis. Totally up to you if you want to include them yourself. So what I'm going to do here is actually going to take all the merchant sales and delete them out of this list. So we need to reorder this list so that it shows us this column in alphabetical order. So I'm going to select the H and then do this whole line, and then clicking this icon up here, sort ascending, and then click on that. I'm going to sort it from A to Z. Now I've only selected this one column here. I would like to extend the selection so that it takes account all of my columns to the left and the right, and they all get sorted and they don't lose their order. So we click extend selection, and it will include all of those and order this column now from A to B and so on. So now we can find all the merchant sales and select them all in one group. So here we've got merchant, so we can go to the row here. You can see a few unknown ones in there. I'm going to start at the top of the merchant, go all the way down here. You can see there's quite a few of them, but they are quite small amounts. They probably do add up to a little amount, but for me I'm just going to ignore them. So hold down shift, click this number, then I can right click and delete those rows. So this gives me more manageable data to deal with. So I'm trying to reduce out the things that I don't really want to take into account at the moment. We've lost the titles at the top because we ordered it here, and so those are down at the bottom somewhere because one was an item number, I believe. So if we find that, here we go, here's the line that was at the top, item name, stack size, golden here. You really need to put this back at the top so we can cut and paste that. So we Control X to cut and then scroll to the top, and here we can right click on that and insert rows above and paste in there. Now in something like Excel, you have an option just to do that in one go. For me it's just taken a couple of extra clicks. Then I can get rid of this line here, just delete that row, don't need that one. I spotted there was a question mark there on this one, don't know what that item is. If there are any other question marks, we could probably do with just getting rid of them, unless we want to include them into some sort of like unknown category or something like that. You could put them in the miscellaneous, or depends on how many you've got in your auction list. I don't see too many here. Tends to be if you sell to other players directly, or you're buying and selling off a merchant. Sometimes TSM loses that data, but it's only the one that I can see. So I'm going to get rid of this one as well whilst it's here. So now we're managing our data a bit better. Let's go back up to the top. And so some of these things I'm not going to need. So I'm not going to need the column for item strings. So I'm going to get rid of that one, delete that column. So item name, I definitely want to know what I've got. Now stack size, I don't really need to bother with because it's taken care of in the quantity. This isn't 5 stacks of 10. The stack size is 5. We've sold 2 of them. So the quantity total is 10. So our total gold is correct here. So for me, I don't need the stack size, so I'm going to delete that column. I'm going to need the total and the gold because the total is referencing the gold column and the gold is referencing the column here. So I need to keep all 3 of these columns because one references the other. The player that I bought it off and the player that sold it, I'm not too concerned with here, so I'm going to get rid of those as well, delete those columns. And the source, whether it's auction or anything else, these are all auctions, so I don't need that as well, so I'm going to delete this one. And then that just leaves me time. It's not currently in time order, but the next thing I want to order is actually by item name, because I'd like to group these all into professions, and so the easiest way to do that is to look at all the different items and order them together. So we're going to select column A, and we're going to order that alphabetically. Extend selection. So again, we've lost the top bit, but that's fine. We can see now, we can see exactly how many of each thing we have, and it's repeated several times depending on how many we sold during the month. So that's a really good start. We can see how much we've sold. So the next thing I'd like to do is group these into professions. So there's no real easy automatic way of this other than just copying and pasting from one into another one. So what I'm going to do with this is we don't need the time and date now, so I'm actually going to get rid of those 2 columns. I'm going to delete those. So now that we've got these, what I'd like to do is actually make a second spreadsheet, and you could use different subsheets down here, but I'm actually going to make a whole different spreadsheet so I can copy and paste from one to another. So I'm going to create a new document here, new spreadsheet, and then I'm going to put these 2 side by side. So it's quite easy in Windows, you can just drag one, bounce it off the left, select the thing you want on the right, and then you've got two side by side, and it's quite easy to compare them now. So what we want to do first is, let's say we want to have a look at, what's this first one? This is tailoring. So I'm going to call this tailoring, and then I want to borrow these cells here, quantity, total, price, put that as my title in there, so copy and paste that in, and then we're going to have a look here, and then take all of the first lot, battle flag, rallying swiftness, everything over including price. In fact, if we just move this a little bit to the right, then it won't keep jumping left and right. So now what I want to do is go down and try and identify all the tailoring items. So I'm going to look here, go black mage weave vest. Now in order to select, you can see here I've selected these and these but not included these. I'm holding control down and clicking and dragging over these. That way I can select just individual items. If I held control on this one, I can get rid of those as well. So keeping control held down is quite a powerful way of just adding things and taking things away from a selection. So what I'm going to go through here is select all the things to do with tailoring, scroll down the list using the scroll wheel, identify all the things that I've got that I know are tailoring. Usually it's shirts and bags. So I'm going to go down here, Stones of Fury, Jumps of Mountain. Now enchants are quite easy because they're all called enchant, which is a nice big block we can skip, go all the way down here, and then I've got a flying carpet there. So I've still got control held down. You can see if I go back up to the top here, those are still selected. That's the important thing, is to make sure you've got control held down. Then I can go through here, select everything to do with tailoring. Lots of silky satchels there. Now sinister combatants, obviously I've got leather and satin. Satin is all the tailoring stuff, so from here, now I can go all the way down. I can keep just moving the mouse down here and it'll carry on, and then I can finish the selection down here. Then use the wheel to scroll down. There's a stylish red shirt there, Tome of Illusions, white linen shirt, a couple of last bits there. So now if I scroll back up, you can see I've got various chunks of this list that are all copied. So what I'm going to do now is use Control-C to copy that. So that's now in the copy buffer as it is, and then I'm going to select this cell here that's just underneath the item name. I'm not going to need to select the whole lot, but from there I can Control-V paste that lot straight in there. Obviously the formatting hasn't quite worked here, but it's got all the data there. Now I want to go back to this sheet and I want to delete all of these because I don't want to get confused and put things in the same category. So I'm just going to press delete now and clear out all those selections. So at least now I've dealt with those ones. Now when I go back to this table here, I can just double click on the width icon here and it'll automatically go to the widest point, and then the price and the total is all fine for the moment. So that's all my tailoring put together. I'm going to do the same as I did there. I'm going to split that into cooking and enchanting, leatherworking and miscellaneous. So what I'm going to do this time though is I'm going to make an extra sheet. So I've got one sheet here. I'm going to make a second sheet. I'm going to call this cooking. And then I'm going to borrow the item name, total gold price. So Control-C copy, Control-V paste in there. Now I need to go through and find all my cooking items. Now obviously there's gaps in here now, but it's a lot easier to just pick things up quite quickly. So I can just select the ones I want. There's some fusaka there, galley banquets, the occasional sausage haunches. Then we've got some cold tiramisu, Major's frothy coffee. You can see there I've missed out the Hydral expedition bag. That should be in tailoring. So it's quite easy to spot things now. So again, Control-C copy, select the cooking on the right here, Control-V paste, double click on the width so everything's there. Go back to this one, I'm just going to click in the title bar at the top here. There we go, now I've deleted all of those. So that's all my cooking. I can go back to the tailoring if I want and find that missing Hydral expedition bag that I missed out here. Come down here, it doesn't really matter what order you put them in, but for now I'm just going to insert a row there and copy and paste that. You can do like copy and then delete it, it's still in the computer's memory, and I go across here to the left and Control-V and paste it in there. That can sometimes be an easier way. It all depends on your software and how it handles the copy and paste. So now I've got cooking and tailoring. I'm going to do the same for enchanting, leatherworking and miscellaneous. So ideally you'd have an empty list here on the left, and now you've got a categorized list on the right. Now you can name these sheets. If I could just go through all that one the same: tailoring, cooking, enchanting, miscellaneous. Okay, so now we have our different tabs down here at the bottom. We can move this across a little bit to the left so we can see things a bit more clearly. So we have a tailoring list, a cooking list, enchanting, leatherworking and miscellaneous. So that's the next step. So that's really good. Now, sometimes what I like to be able to do then is look at these and just condense the quantities. You can see here we've got 3 rallying swiftness, and then 2, then 1. I'd like to see how many total I sold, and then this is what I do with my monthly highlights, is I condense all these extras, like all the hexagon bags, just into one total quantity. Now the way to do this is to use a thing called pivot tables. That's kind of like a spreadsheet, special table that takes a chunk of data and allows you to condense it and reorganize it and refilter it in lots and lots of different ways. But what we're going to use it for is a very simple way of just simply condensing all this data so that it's easily readable by us. Now in order to do that, I'm going to just focus on the things I want here. So we're going to include the titles here, because that's how the pivot table will name everything. So I'm going to take the tailoring one to start off with. Select this first top left one and then scroll all the way down. Now we're not going to include the other versions of the price, but we do want the total and the price columns. So everything up, column A, B, C and D. So if I hold shift down now and click down in this bottom right here where the 43.79 is, that's all the cells that we're currently interested in. So all of this lot, all selected, and quantity, total and gold. So now we're going to insert a pivot table, special option here. So now using our current selection, yep, okay. And now you've got this layout will depend on your program. Different programs use slightly different ways of organizing this, but essentially what we want to do is move the item into the row field and then everything else, the quantity, into the data. Now you can see automatically we've got the sum of each of these. You can change these. So I've got the sum of quantity, which is what I want. I want it to add everything up and condense it. Sum of the total, the same. Now for the gold, I'd like to work out what the average price was of those. So if I double click on this, we can change this to average. And if I click on source and destination, the default is to put the destination into a new sheet, which is going to be kind of useful for us. You can, in things like Excel, you can do it from one spreadsheet to another. You can link those up together. For me, I'm just going to put this in a new sheet because it's going to be kind of easier that way. So we're going to click on OK now. So now we've got a tailoring sheet, which is our pivot table tailoring. Now if I double click on this just to change the formatting a little bit more, double click on that and double click on that. So now we've got all the items condensed. Now the quantity now is 6, whereas our original one, our quantity was 3, 2 and 1. So now it's all condensed down into one quantity of 6, and then a sum of the total 1,760. It's taken the 771, the 658 and the 329, and it's added those three together to give me a sum of the total. And then the average is based off of the average of this, this and this to give me an average price of 305. So this is useful information for me to then start analysing things, because then I can see quite easily, okay, silkweed satchels, I've sold 20 of them for a total of 9,000 gold for an average of 443. Then all the sinister gear is obviously split into all its different ones. You can see white swashbuckler shirt, we've got 2 of those, and then we've got a total of 88 gold there. And then what's also useful is automatically giving us a total for the bottom, so we don't really need to worry about the total items, but the actual total gold, this is the really useful figure. We can look at that and go, oh okay, 346,000 gold in sales for tailoring. So that's kind of an easy way of formatting everything. Then we can go through and do the same for cooking, do the same for enchanting, leatherworking and miscellaneous. What we also need to do is look at the other side of things, which is the expenses. So if we take, we don't need this anymore. Obviously I'd recommend saving this more frequently than I did here. And then let's have a look at our purchases. And again, we'll import this, CSV, everything looks to be fine. We've got all these over here. So again, we do the same kind of thing. We look at the item string, we probably won't need that. We've got the item names, and then we've got the time format again. So what we'll do is insert a column to the left here. So again, we're looking for the H2 thing here. So if we borrow the format from a previous one, now I've deleted it from this one, unfortunately. So let's borrow it from a different spreadsheet, and we'll paste it in here. Just again using the H2, which is the column and the cell to the left. So we'll put that one in, and then copy that cell and paste it all into the rest. So now we have a date format, and then what I want to do is take everything out that isn't February. So select that top row, go all the way down to the end of January. Let's just move this up a little bit before we get into February here, and then we can delete these rows the same as before, delete rows, and then go back up to the top. So now we're starting in, let me just move this across, starting in the 3rd of February, moving all the way down, anything from March we don't want, so that's starting here. So we'll select from 778 all the way down to the bottom, shift click there, and we can delete that. Delete those rows. So now this is all our purchases. We want to have a look at these. Now I do want to include merchant purchases for this one, because I do buy quite a lot of things like the powdered sugar, fusaka, nylon thread, things like that. So I want to include that in my expenses. So we can take out some of this data. So delete the item ID. I'm not going to bother with the stacked size, so I'm going to delete that one. Now again, price we want to convert into a more readable format, so let's insert column left, call that gold, and so we're going to borrow from this cell to the right, so equals D2 divided by 10,000, press enter, and then that gives us a 0.25 value, and we'll change that to a number format, and then we're going to copy that cell and apply it to all the others. So scroll all the way down, shift and click there, control V paste, and then we want to take both of these and make a total gold. So we'll select this one and insert the column to the left, call this one total, and then we're going to take the price here in gold and the quantity here, so equals B2 times D2, like so. And that gives us a total of 7.5 gold. Copy that, then select everything down below, paste that in there. So now we've got some totals. Now we need to do the same thing and organize this by name and put that into categories. So we can go all the way over to here, organize A to Z, extend selection. Then we'll want to add the row back in at the top, so we'll insert a row above. We'll go find our missing row. There it is. Take that one, cut that one out, paste it in there, and delete that row. So there we go there. And then we'll go through and do the same thing as before. We'd take all this from one and we'd order it into all the different professions, like take all the arcana and put that in enchanting, the bloodstained bones, put that into a leatherworking, calcified bone, and we'll go through the same process again. You can get rid of some of these categories as well, which you don't need, like other player, source, time, and vendor. We could probably get rid of all of those columns. There we go, just looking at these, and then you copy in those into another spreadsheet. Then once you've done that, then you can make pivot tables out of all of those, and then you've got a condensed version of the summary. And then what I usually do as a final step is copy and paste those all into one final one. Here's one I made earlier for my February highlights. So we've got the pivot table that I've copied from one into another, and then we've got all the sales, and then I've usually copied the expenses right below that, so I can do quite an easy, here's a simple calculation of going B55, which is this cell up here at the top, and minus B70, which is the total of the expenses, and that's given me my total profit. And then I've copy and pasted the pivot tables and worked my way down, so that it's quite easy for me to just scroll down on one sheet and quite easily look at all my data and decide what's been working well, what hasn't been working well, what kind of quantities I've sold things in. And that in a nutshell is it, really. There's way more you can do with spreadsheets and managing data like this. You could include the time, you could look at different things like that, you could do scatter charts, you can do all sorts of different things. But I've kept this fairly basic because for me that's all I wanted to do for the information. So I hope that's helped, and I hope it's given you an idea as to how to analyse the data that comes out of TSM. If you do have any questions, be sure to put them in the comments below, or ask me when I'm live streaming on Twitch, or you can check in my Discord and post a question there. So until next time, happy gold making, and I'll see you very soon.